Welcome back to Working Faith, where we take a spiritual approach to career success. I'm your host, Jalen Isley, and today we're talking about leadership. I'm excited to introduce Ashley Brundage. Ashley is the founder and president of Empowering Differences. Ms. Brundage speaks locally and nationally about being a transgender woman, workplace equality, leadership, change management, and empowerment. She has also been interviewed in several publications and media outlets, including InStyle Magazine, Fox, and Forbes. In 2021, her company's four-step empowerment process was used to win Linkage's Executive Impact Award. And in 2022, she was the repeat winner of the Stevie Awards Global Social Impact Award for the LGBTI community. Ashley, welcome to the show. So glad to have you here.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this show is all about how we can leverage our faith to positively impact the workplace and grow our careers. So let's start by talking about your faith journey. What are, some of the core principles of the Jewish faith that resonate most with you and how they shaped who you are today?
Yeah, I mean, it has been quite a journey. So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that I have transitioned my faith three times. Um,
Mm,
and it's interesting being very out and open about being a woman of transgender experience. I often get asked questions about my gender, but really my religion has been the thing that I've had to transition more. And so I was born into the Jewish faith. And then as I started to grow in my relationship, at the time, I ended up becoming Christian, and I was married in the Catholic Church, which was quite a change from
mm-hmm.
one religion to the next. And then after my relationship ended, I had the chance to transition back and be welcomed back
Mm,
into the Jewish faith. And I think that the principles of the Jewish faith around, recognizing belief and God being the absolute and unparalleled unity of people as our creator, I think that realizing that people are all on a journey is usually the moment in time where I was able to, it was the moment in time where I was able to really resonate back with my birth religion and be connected and welcomed with open arms, knowing that I'm who I am because of the creator, and know that my journey to get to where I am today couldn't have been possible without a higher power.
hmm. Yeah, and so this belief in the higher power, how has that impacted your journey? Like, is it a source of comfort? Is it a source of direction? Tell me a little bit more about the belief in the higher power and how that's, shaped you and kept you.
I think it adds to the element of knowing that you're not alone, because so many things that people do who are navigating this life, this journey called life, can have difficult moments. For me, I draw a lot on my kids as a way of support and compassion and trust, but also having another community, another group of people, and having that togetherness and knowing that you're there and you're going through what you're going through because you were meant to be in that moment. And there's
Hmm,
always something that can be drawn from every interaction that you have with other people, but everything that you're doing on the path of your journey has a meaning. And I think that knowing that you're there in that moment for a specific reason, it kind of makes you work a little bit harder to figure out why it is that you're there and what you're
hmm.
actually supposed to draw from that moment.
Yeah. So as you were talking, two words kind of stood out to me. So when you talked about, not being alone, immediately I thought, okay, connection. Like this, her faith has inspired like this real, genuine acceptance and appreciation of connection and how important it is to stay connected to the higher power, but also to the community, to everyone, because we all come from that source. And then the other thing that you mentioned, knowing that you're here on this journey for a reason and understanding your why and working a bit harder towards it, the word that came to mind for me was purpose. this faith inspires a sense of connection, community, and purpose in this world. Am I
Totally.
am I on the same page with you?
Yes, I love
Yeah,
it. Connection, community, and purpose. I mean, it is
definitely.
literally kind of where what I was getting to without saying those words in direct order. But yes, I mean,
Hmm.
I mean, some of the things that I know that I've been through, being homeless and facing discrimination, being attacked, some of those things that I've been through, like some people, if they don't have other higher powers to latch onto, won't make it through them.
Hmm.
And I think that it's important to be open about who you are and what you believe in, because even
Right.
if it is that you believe in nothing, I mean, you should be vocal about that then.
Definitely. Definitely. Okay. Well, we kind of summarize it as connection, community, and purpose, which I really love. It sounds like, it's the title of your next training. But tell me a little bit about how that connection and that sense of purpose has influenced your professional values.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's really one of the main reasons why I wanted to research religion as one of the top 10 common differences that we have as humans.
Hmm.
I move about the world a lot and go to different quadrants of the world between Asia and North America, South America. I mean, you name it. I'm at Europe. I'm kind of always wanting to be in different places, whether that be virtually or in person.
Right.
And you learn about all of these ways in which faith is so important across religions. And
Hmm.
I really wanted, to the deeply held respect it is of taking the time to learn about somebody else's religion was one of the biggest things that I found from my empowerment research.
Interesting.
And it's why I wanted to make that my job every day, was connecting people across all the differences that we have. I wasn't so vocal about my religion when I was working in the financial services industry, just because it was pretty polarizing in some ways,
Hmm.
sadly.
Yeah.
I was once the national vice president of diversity, equity, and inclusion at PNC Bank.
Hmm.
And in my 6 years running a national program for them, what I found was that there were oftentimes lots of groups of employees that were connected through faith that wanted to have an employee resource group for their one faith.
Hmm.
And interestingly enough, what we found was that they weren't open to potentially having other views discussed in their employee group setting,
Hmm.
and almost to kind of make their group not almost exclusive versus being inclusive.
Hmm.
And this work is kind of what led me to start realizing that there was a need to have a discussion around religion in the workplace.
Hmm.
But how could we do that in a way that brought people together? So I was one of the advocates that helped to guide and start an interfaith employee resource group um,
Interesting.
at the bank, which kind of transcended across religion, but it was so interesting when we started bringing people of different religions together. We realized that they all had kind of the same framework. It was
Right.
just
Right.
there was different messaging, right? And there was a different messenger. Sometimes it
Right.
was the same messenger in relation to part of the Jewish culture to Christianity. Some of the messenger is the same, but then ultimately it changes in the end. But it's just interesting realizing that employees in the workplace can find commonality across so many of their differences.
Yeah, absolutely. And religion and faith being one of those key differences that can actually unite people. So it's interesting that you bring up the interfaith employee resource group. Two things. One, so when I was in corporate America, I was running the ERGs as well. And it's actually what prompted me to start this podcast because once again, we had, some of these groups that were faith based there was just so much to learn and so many different ways to impact one another. I'm like, we can't keep containing ourselves and our beliefs. Let's put it out in the forefront and actually unite people. And as someone who I identify as interfaith, and just the concept of people sharing and growing and learning together is just so powerful because so many of these faiths are just based on love and peace and unity. And we need more of that in the workplace, to be honest with you, in my opinion. So that's great to hear. As a result of the interfaith ERG that you did establish, did you recognize or notice any tangible shifts in the way that people interacted with one another? Or, how did that
Um,
impact the workplace?
yeah, I mean, it definitely had a lot of noticeable change. It was interesting though, because we had established it during the pandemic. And
Hmm.
so a lot of what is around bringing people together was so we were also navigating that, remote culture and how to bring people together on that front as well. So it kind of made it a little bit trickier, I think. But one of the things also that I noticed was kind of difficult in this space was providing a space for someone who does not practice any religion,
Hmm.
and or purposefully does not practice religion, which is, up to each person's own choice, but was finding a space for them in the discussion. That was, I think, the
Interesting.
hardest thing to do, was for
Hmm.
someone who was atheist or someone who does not recognize religion. And how were we able to incorporate them into the conversation without hurting other people's feelings?
Right.
It's kind of one of those things that you kind of have to say, all right, well, here is the framework, here is the deliverance, but what is the reasoning behind your view on this? And
Right.
without attacking other people, right? And that was
Yeah.
the trickiest thing that I think that is still trying to be figured out, to be navigated. That's the hardest one from what I saw, or challenge.
Interesting. And you're absolutely right. We have to create space for multiple police because that's where the growth is. And that's where the empowerment is. When you can stand in your own truth and still make space for someone else's experience. Yeah, it can be tricky and challenging. And I do believe that your faith can play a key role in helping you be strong enough to understand someone else's perspective and point of view and share yours and impact each other that way. So, well, interesting. So, carrying along the vein of challenges or opportunities, tell me specifically, an example of a leadership work challenge or opportunity in which you personally had to rely on your spiritual principles to guide your behavior or make an impact.
Yeah, when I think about the connectivity of leadership to religion, and spirituality, I look for leaders to be thinking about what actions they're going to take, and so in certain times, I remember, thinking about an opportunity to see something that anti-sentimentism, right? And I've seen that happen in the workplace. And so my thought is, as a leader, I'm going to make a statement and I'm going to share the point of view on the thread, right? Like, it's like almost Facebook for work, and it's the thread that people are. If we built a culture in that company that was so comfortable for people that they could display any response on an open thread and not worry about any kind of thing happening to them.
Repercussion. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I was blown away. I mean, and this happened around all the differences, not just religion, but like people
Hmm.
would share their anti-trans thoughts or their racist thoughts and at times. And it's like, wow, oh my goodness, someone feels comfortable enough to share that. Wow, we really are doing an amazing job at building an inclusive culture. And so that was at times, but then at the end of the day, if the organization doesn't make a statement about those statements, it
Hmm.
doesn't weigh in and say, this is the view of inclusion, is that you need to realize that there are people that are different than you and you need to accept them regardless. And accepting them means that you're going to do this, this, and this. You're going to obviously you're going to learn a little bit more about this difference that someone has. You're going to learn more about this religion that you don't know anything about. And we're going to challenge you to do that. So we're going to challenge you to take an interfaith course and learn about all the different religions that are out there in the world. And those were some of the things that we did as leaders of the organization to make that impact and make it more broadly.
Interesting. When I think about what you just said on leadership and challenging your team members to take a step further and learn about a different experience, what does Judaism say about inclusion and bringing other people in? Like, I'm curious to understand that a
Yeah.
bit more.
Well, I think it really depends on who you ask.
Very true.
Right, because there are kind of two sides of the Jewish faith, right? There's Orthodox, and then there's
Hmm.
and then
Yeah,
non-Orthodox, where I might not be accepted fully in one of those.
got it.
Um,
Yeah.
for the way that I live my life and
Hmm.
operate, and
Hmm.
but I know that there are no mistakes that are made, and
Yeah.
that I'm on this earth specifically to, to be me and to help people. And that's what I try to do throughout my, through my company and through my research on
Yeah.
empowerment. But yeah, I mean, I think that it really depends. And what I've found is that, and what brought me back to the faith was being invited back to temple, and then not just being invited, but then being asked to be a part of opening the ark
Hmm.
and pulling out the Torah, and being there to celebrate with family and friends. It's like we're not just being asked to the dance, we're being asked to dance, right? It's like the
Yeah,
between
definitely.
diversity and inclusion. Verne Myers coined that. And then it's also all the other things beyond inclusion, right? It's equity. So it's like we're being a part of, and we're not the only person from that difference that's a part of the faith.
Yeah.
So I know that there are other TGX or transgender expansive people who are a part of the Jewish faith, and I'm not alone, because feeling alone then would be
Right.
not very equitable. And then belonging, which is another big thing in the DEI space,
Right.
DEIB space. And I say that back to the dance analogy, right? Equity is dancing on a level floor, right? Where you all have access to dance on the floor and
Hmm.
everyone can do that. But also belonging is like dancing like no one is watching.
Right.
So
Yeah.
then belonging for religion then would be, being able to practice the religion in the way that you do it, in the
Yeah.
space that you do it, the way that you
Hmm.
want to do it.
Hmm. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So when I think about, some of the experiences that you've had, and even, you just sharing, practicing your faith in a way that is genuine, authentic to you, talk to me a bit more about your spiritual practices. Like, how do you maintain your spiritual health and well-being?
For me, it's also tied into mindfulness,
Hmm.
and meditation and practice, and I learned a lot about meditation from spending a lot of time in Asia. And in fact, I had just recently hosted an empowerment conference on a cruise ship, and every day we planned a mindfulness meditation seminar that was about 20 to 30 minutes, where we got a chance to really do breathing exercises, listen to music, listen to sounds, think, walk, move in a circle,
Hmm.
lift, sit, stretch, lots of different activities that you can do to kind of frame your mind to be in the right kind of mindset. And mindset is so important in our faith because it gives us the ability to be ready to receive the word.
Right. That makes sense. So this mindfulness meditation is how you maintain your spiritual health. You can never get enough of the mindfulness. Like it puts you in a place to receive, it grounds you, it keeps you in a place of appreciation and thanksgiving. Like there are just so many benefits and ways that it enhances someone's life. So I definitely am on the same page with you there with the mindfulness.
Yeah.
All right. So, it has been a real pleasure having you on the show today. what is a spiritual principle from your faith that can help everyone listening, with leadership in their careers?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm excited to share my number one top empowering leadership action based on my research that I did on empowerment and how empowerment is impacted by our top 10 most common human differences that we have. And of
Hmm.
course, one of those differences is our faith or religion or lack thereof. And so what I found was there's these 10 empowering actions, and I'd ranked them for my research project.
Hmm.
And this research project was a panel of people that I brought together across 7 different religions. And together we vetted what leadership actions could make the impact across religion.
Wow.
And so the number one most impactful leadership action from my research for religion is enlighten. And so when you do enlighten or enlightenment for someone, you're not only educating them, which is great. It's kind of like scratching the surface, but then you're also working to validate said education.
Interesting.
And when you do that as a leader for someone, specifically in relation to religion, you're able to actually impact them faster with empowerment because of the fact that you are validating that knowledge. You're sharing the knowledge, you're validating it. It almost also builds that connection between the mind and the heart when you do this, because you're giving them the knowledge, the data, the mindset, and then you're also connecting it. So then you know that you've gotten that validation.
We need another episode on this. Like we need a whole nother. So interesting. So wait, so let me make sure that I'm understanding that correctly. So recommendation here is as a leader is taking the time to enlighten your team
Yes.
and
Enlighten or enlightenment is if
uh-huh.
you're connecting it to other people, enlighten, because you could also enlighten yourself.
Okay. Yeah.
Shocking. Right, as a leader, right, if it does
Right.
not start with you. So then what's really cool about this in my empowerment research is that this then also connects to my 4 empowerment steps.
Hmm.
And you can do the 4 empowerment steps for any one of the 10 differences, and you can do the 4 empowerment steps connected to each of the 10 empowering actions as well.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that'll
Okay.
be the
Good
other
deal.
podcast.
Yeah. We'll do we'll have to
Tune
do a
in for the 4
follow-up.
empowerment steps.
Right. Okay. Well, great. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today. How can the audience stay connected with you and stay up to date on what you're doing?
Oh my goodness. Yes. So definitely follow me on social media at Ashley T. Brundage, ASHLEYT BRUNDAGE. And you'll see all my happenings. I'm the same handle across all social media handles, makes it super easy. And you can also follow my company, Empowering Differences, by following Empowering Diff, DIFF, because differences was too long for some social media handles, but it's
Yeah.
the same across all of them. And you can see what we're up to. You can see where we're going to be next. You can see where the next voyage of empowerment is going to be held. September 16th through the 21st, 2023.
Nice.
But yeah, no, I would be really thrilled to have you as a follower and connect. And you can always send me a direct message because me or my team, we reply to every single message because it's important not to be missed.
That's true, you all, because I reached out to her and I got a response like within 48 hours. So she is definitely committed to responding to your messages. So and I think that's so great. I really appreciate the time that you and your team take to, let people know that you're listening and that you care. So that's amazing. All right. Well, thank you all so much for listening to Working Faith. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, all the show notes, information about our guest, Ashley, and a link to submit your career questions can be found on the website, workingfaith.com. Remember to subscribe, rate, and share the show with others. And I'd love to hear your comments. I like to respond to people as well, so you can engage directly with me by visiting the Working Faith page on LinkedIn. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week with more tips on how you can take a spiritual approach to your career success and work your faith. Good day.